Hi everyone, this is Patrick once again. Today's vlog is all about the Government House tour as promised. But before we get into the house, I'll talk to you about the history, a little history of the Government House, though we discussed it already from our first presentation or blog about Regina, Saskatchewan. The Government House in Regina, Saskatchewan, Canada serves as the official office of the Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan. Originally constructed as a residence for the Lieutenant Governor of the Northwest Territories, Government House played a crucial role when Regina was the territorial headquarters. In 1905, when the provinces of Saskatchewan and Alberta were created out of the territories, Regina became the capital of Saskatchewan. Alright, let's start from here.
Well, I should say all of this. This current wing is 2005. This used to be the old museum entrance, which was opened in 1980. Elevator was added in the 90s, but then once we turn the corner, then we get to the original sections of the elevator.
Is it live streaming?
Yeah.
Yes, is it? No, it's not live.
Okay. Just
Is it okay?
Yeah, that is
Okay,
okay.
fine.
It's okay.
Oh,
But live streaming is not allowed.
No,
You
no.
can take a video and add it.
okay.
But the ballroom, the conservatory, all that are added on a little later on. The ballroom was built in 1928, and prior to that, the conservatory used to be on the south side of the building alongside it. But then, when they were doing restoration, they rebuilt the conservatory over here. So the material still dates back to 1901, but it's just in a different location now. We're free to take a look in if you'd like. It's a bit warm.
It's okay. Ooh, nice. This is cool.
This is gorgeous.
It's warm,
Stark
but
difference between the two spaces for sure.
it's beautiful. It's good.
But then the museum itself is just past these doors. And this space was recreated as it was back in 1905. This is when the first Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan, Andy Bourget, was named.
What first?
So yes, it's quite the house. Over here is the office. So it's also for business. So
Cool.
this is the office of the Lieutenant Governor, Andy Bourget. And a good majority of the things you see here actually belong to him or his wife, such as the portrait of Queen Victoria that dates back to about 1903. But the house had a lot of amenities. It actually had electricity, it had a telephone line, and the steam radiators, they all had that. That's what worked. But of course, they have the coal fireplace as well that kind of supplement. Yeah, especially for the time. So we were a little behind the times, for sure. So this place was actually had running water before the restoration. So back in 1981, what they did is they installed a tank of water in the attic that, kept the fishes bred. And then Regina didn't have running water until about 20 years or so. So not all the fancy technology too. This house was of course built to impress, but also to entertain. So they accomplished that with a lot of interesting methods, pets being one of them. So that bird cage right there, it's a bit smaller than it should have been. This for an African grey parrot named Coquette. And so Andy Bourget spoke French and taught this parrot to speak French as well. So you'd remember if you visited here, you spoke French with the bird, if anything. But then also that rocking horse was for another animal. Any guesses? No idea? It'd be a monkey. They had a capuchin monkey around the house. You might have seen the doll at the front or something like that. Anyways, he's a pretty small guy, but his name was Jacques, and he's able to go anywhere in the house. Well, same chandeliers as one in the house. Because he'd spring from them, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
That's pretty wild.
But yeah, any questions about this space? Anything that stands out that you'd like to learn a bit more about?
I think they're all good.
Well, good. We'll go on to the next one.
Thank you.
You stay in front.
Here's the room here. Here's the front door.
Ah. Oh.
So there's a whole process coming into the building, right? You're welcomed in. You always have to clean off your shoes before you get to the landing gear. And that's where you leave your hat, your jacket, all your outside weapons. And And so there's an interesting policy. We call it good etiquette, more like if you knock on the door, you're always welcome in. But if they didn't want you to come, they'd still let you in, but put you in these chairs instead. These were for the unwelcome guests. So the line on the bottom, so not only would it be leaning backward open, but the bottom of the plate there would catch your clothes. So a little insult to injury, so to speak.
That is pretty creative.
Yeah, unique way. But that's the whole thing about this house too, right? Is the etiquette around all the things they did. And so kicking people out of your house was a little involved.
Took a little while.
Yeah. But it's
You must have had it one time.
and no doubt they probably would have acquiesced, as they would have put it. But for a good majority of people, it was kind of like, oh, I don't think I'm supposed to be here, kind of thing. So they would without being kicked out. So it would also allow them to save face. Yeah. Depending on how they're But this space is also still needed. So the office to the left did come and go. But so here now. So we came back in 1984 and they're all from the north and they're open now. So they still use that entrance. So we have state visits all the time, you know, diplomatic visits from different nations across the globe, and they come here. But a little warm, not too much ventilation in here. But what they didn't want to do is have the smoke in here kind of get out. So they kind of kept it pretty closed shut. So in fact, no women or children were permitted in this room either. This is the gentleman's space. But the wallpaper here has texture to it to trap in smoke. We also wear jackets on top of everything so nothing settles on their clothing underneath. And once they are finished, they do use a dish in the corner there. That's for freshening up your facial hair and whatnot, your hands, so you have no scent. It's considered impolite, right? And so I often think a lot of business actually happened in here as opposed to the office over there. But you know, they have a pool table to kind of discuss things over with, all that stuff. But yeah.
And the liquor cabinet.
Yes, no doubt probably brought by some of the guests too, right? The traveling cases. Only hard liquor would have been consumed in here. They wouldn't have done any of that at the table because that'd be more wine sports, that kind of thing. But also, you know, yeah, that's a tobacco box right there made from a horse's hoof, that kind of thing. The narcotics room, I'll also say. But any questions about anything in here?
No. I don't have any questions. Do you have any questions?
No worries.
Looks nice.
So just to the right is a rare example of the uniform that the Lieutenant Governor wears. They don't make them anymore, so this is a civil uniform. Everything you see here is real gold. And it was based off of a pattern that a king created himself, and so he wanted his representatives to look like him. So this was the result. So not only is it along the collar and the front of the shirt, this goes down the back as well. And then to match it, you have a hat, which is from ostrich feathers and beaver pelt. And then, you know, you have a sword as well. So that was a ceremonial sword given to Hugh Monroe by King George V, I believe. You can see his cipher along with engravings there. So it does date the sword to about like 1920 to 30, which is around the time that he lived here. So all of that would have been provided to every lieutenant governor at some point, but stopped around the 60s. Don't need a sword and a fancy jacket anymore.
It's the business suit.
And in here,
Ooh.
fancy table, yes. So
Nice.
all the cutlery you see here hasn't left the house since 1905.
Ooh. Stays on the table? whole time?
Well, not as it stayed on the table, but
It
rather
just-
in the safe in the corner there.
Oh, nice.
And so what happened in 1945 when this place stopped being a house is that was locked. The lady of the house forgot the code, and the gentleman who had the code was sick that day, so it remained sealed until about the 70s.
Wow.
So when they cracked it open, they found 1,500 pieces of all of the original cutlery here. Table service, tea service.
That was fortunate.
Very. So this was produced on request of the royal family for Saskatchewan. So you'll see Government House of Regina engraved on all of it. So it was produced in Worcester, England, I believe. Brought over, no doubt, by a boat, and then kept here. This goes to show kind of the effort they put into some of the meals. You'd be here for hours. And so there's a lot of rules, of course, for a table such as this. You'd never be seated with people you came with. You're always across from them, so that you'd have a conversation with people next to you. But of course, that was dictated too, right? You couldn't speak to anyone. On the first course, you can only speak to your left and you pair off, and then you switch on the next course and whatnot. So all these table manners that you had to inherently know, otherwise you wouldn't be able to eat at a table like this. So kids weren't welcome. I mean, no doubt, a lot of alcoholic drinks as well, but you have to know the rules and all the stuff here. So they still use this table too, like the main entrance. If the Lieutenant Governor wants, they set it up for whatever occasion. Ideally with good reason, but hypothetically, it's up to you. But yeah, it's pretty involved, to say the least. All the silverware here has to be polished twice a year, that kind of thing. Crystal wire has to also be cleaned. So this is actually probably less than typical. Said that this was the finest dining room in Canada. I mean, they're probably a bit biased, but in 1891 it just goes to show. But it was also supposed to be a unified province. Frederick Haltane, which was in the running to be the premier, he kind of lost out to Walter Scott and drawing room. So this is where ladies withdraw. So it's a much more feminine space. You'll know notice in the house there's kind of two versions, masculine and feminine. It's very adjusting your clothing, that kind of thing. But even the table next to it too, it's all that kind of decorative stuff that had practical purpose. That table right there, they would put it in the middle of the room whenever they needed it for anything. But other than that, they keep everything against the walls because this is where they danced in these spaces. But he produced it for the house back and sent it to Henriette Forget for a year to see if she'd like it. Evidently she did, so she purchased it. Here it is to this day. Quite the acquisition. It's probably handcrafted, hand carved. It was about $650 back then, which is a little more expensive than a house. So it would have been quite the acquisition. The one going up and down the stairs is perhaps the most accurate one. The rest of them were just kind of approximations. What would probably be in the rooms. But yeah, wouldn't want to be walking on the originals. They'd probably just disintegrate if we did. But this is the second floor. So the main spaces downstairs were all for entertaining guests. Upstairs was for hosting. So it's a lot more private. So all of these are just bedrooms. The entire skylight, of course, is the ceiling, so there's natural sunlight allowed in, that kind of thing. And that's why there's a main big hole in the second floor here, is to allow natural sunlight down the main floor. It was pretty important to have a window to every room because these lights were pretty dim, and you wouldn't want to be burning oil. But I like to start over here in the guest bedrooms.
The railings are pretty short.
Yeah, there was no building code. They didn't really care too much. It was more for looks, if anything. But over here, this is the second guest bedroom. So it was considered a smaller space, funny to think. But this is kind of set up, well, this is before the Hotel Saskatchewan was even around. So this is the pseudo hotel. If you're of prominence, you'd most likely be staying here as well. But you know, you have maids provide everything for you, from cleaning your clothing and laying it fresh on the bed to giving you wash basins to either wash your face, your hands, or to even shave with. And they'd be kind enough to empty the chamber pot as well. So they're still using those, although with a caveat. Those kinds of things. Though one of my favorite things to point out is just on the nightstand there. You see a teacup?
Yeah.
It's a little different than most. You'll notice
Yes, I was just noticing that it's different.
Yeah. Does anybody know what that would have been for?
Can't believe it.
It's a guard installed that you drink from in there with a little hole cut into it.
Oh.
Anybody have a guess?
That to keep the spoon or something?
No, it was for protecting your mustache.
Oh.
So, styling wax, you know, a lot of men would be wearing it, and the last thing you'd want is the hot tea to melt it. So you have a special teacup to protect both. Very unique to the time. Some people apparently still use them. I can't see much use in it, but they're around. So you might see them from time to time pop up in the most. Yeah. Any questions about anything in here?
Why the size is so short?
So apparently we've measured. It's about the same size as a double bed. It's a little deceptive, but they also slept a bit different. So the headboard is so tall is because people slept upright, and so that would limit the length of the bed as well. But what was the reason for that is respiratory issues. I think there was also some religious reasons as well. But you'd have pillows bracing you as you slept upright. People it's a bit misnomer, it's a half-truth to it. They weren't necessarily shorter, they just had poor nutrition. So wealthier folk, like one of the first lieutenant governors to the Northwest Territories back in like 1867, I think David Laird was his name, he was 6'3". So very tall guy. But a lot of the furniture too you'll see around here is built to the person. So there's only just like 90 degrees. And that's why that headboard is so tall, right? It's because you have the pillows supporting it as well. So there'd be firm pillows underneath and then softer ones on top. And you can see a lot of newspapers, some comics, that kind of thing. People going to bed. This is where everyone would have breakfast.
So breakfast was more of a private affair?
Yeah, and a lot more casual too. And so it typically would either be in your own bedroom, or if there were guests, they would have been hosted in here. And you read the morning paper, you're just getting your day started. And if you're guests, right, you typically know each other, so that's why, you wouldn't go down to the dining room. You'd be a little more informal with each other, so to speak. But those had some unique things to do in here too, particularly the windows. So there's buttons on the walls, of course. I don't know if you made note of them. Some are the light switches. The rest are actually belts for the maids. So you can request them to bring in stairs for you to go through those windows. You can have breakfast outside on the portico. So there were no trees on the property for quite some time. So you could see all the way down to Union Station, which we now know is the Casino Regina.
Oh, this is going to be.
Yeah. So the more important. Or rather, ladies traveling by the
really beautiful.
You really had to think it was etiquette dictated. So this is currently set up for ladies' things as well. And a lot of the stuff you see here is clothing from the time. So to kind of start, we have the outer layers on the bed there. But it wasn't just that, of course. There was a lot that women wore. Sometimes in winter they could wear up to 40 pounds of clothing. But regardless of the clothing, you'd always have a corset on. And so the style was to have impossibly thin waists. So we have a little fun visual indicator. If you put your hands on your waist, the goal is to get all your fingers to touch. And that was accomplished with the corset. So it's impossible. And the reason being is there's a fainting couch right there as well, so you couldn't breathe. So they provided a couch to kind of make sure you didn't hit the ground. Other than that, a gentleman would have to catch you, that kind of thing. But it wasn't just the corsets. The gloves too are really tight. It was all about looking as delicate as possible. So they had tools to put them on. Those clamps right there are actually glove stretchers. So you stretch the glove onto your hand and actually fit it. And then there's button hooks as well, because all the buttons typically on wealthier clothing was on the back, indicating that you had someone to help put it on for you, that kind of thing. So clothing really reflected class back then too. But yes, that they were required in Belgium when they were doing restoration, so they were quite special and large. But you have the wherewithal. So over here. Uncommon up until about 1880, and even then it was only hotels. Regina, though, really didn't have running water until 1920, and so this place would have been quite a talking point. And so how they accomplished it was with a tank of water in the attic and a pit in the backyard. And that would use gravity to provide pressure, which would then feed all of this. So you had the faucets working, you had a flushing toilet, all of that. The thing is that you'll see chamber pots under the bed still, and that's because if you flush this toilet in the middle of the night, you would have woken everyone up. It's that loud. So with gravity, right, there'd be air in the pipes, so it would just rattle all the way down until it went outside. So to save face, you use the chamber pots. And take this stuff for granted nowadays, but back then it was definitely a luxury. And you can see the original work crew in the display right there. The house was smaller, believe it or not. The south side didn't exist, and so there was a window that used to be here, but when they built it. This is the master bedroom, the residence of the Lieutenant Governor specifically. So this was the finest of the bedrooms, with the most furnishings, also the most buttons on the walls too. You could get the maids, the kitchen, the butler, all at the push. And so typically this is probably where the Lieutenant Governor would spend the majority of his morning, because you wouldn't want to go over to the morning room, you just want to have it right in your own space. So it's kind of a combination of all of them over there with your own table. They'd also have their own washroom as well. They replaced it with that one over there eventually. But all of this here is for comfort, including right next to the fireplace there. You see that long-handled pot? Anybody know what it's for?
Warming the bed.
Yeah, that's right. It's for warming up the bed there.
How do they warm?
So they take the coal from the fire after it's burned down. They take the ashes, they put it into the copper pot, warms up, and then they shift it through the bed sheets. If it's too hot, you might light your bed on fire, but you know, they came up with better methods, right? And then you get electric blankets, hot water bottles, but that's a little further down the line. But the dress you see on the bed there is original to 1898. That was made in Montreal, and it's actually kind of your daily wear. All black is something that Queen Victoria would wear quite frequently, so a lot of people replicated what she was wearing. So you see dresses like that even worn to weddings sometimes.
The shoes are all very small.
Yeah, well, it was all in the effort to be delicate, and they would be custom made, right? So they'd fit the person specifically. But even then, you know, shoehorns were quite common. You'd really have to squeeze into a lot of the clothing here because that's what affluent folks did. They had people to take care of things, so they didn't have to wear clothing that was practical. They could be impractical. It was a symbol of wealth back then. But yeah, any other questions about the space? Washroom or the bedrooms?
How do you know there's a kitchen?
Yeah, you'd have to kind of trial and error. I don't.
This is the bathroom.
Yeah. So about 10% of it is original to the house. The rest are all original to the time. So you even have stuff like in the first guest bedroom going back to like the 1700s, or yeah, 1700s. It was like that, the bed and whatnot. But a lot like I mentioned before, the clothing there is fake too. The rest of the stuff in this room though is authentic.
That's why there's all of them do not touch.
Yes. That's all in one space, right? So more of a shack. But yeah, any other questions?
This is light
Light up the space.
Okay,
So you'll see the base in
not
there.
electricity or
No, they did have electricity, which these lights are replicas of what they would have had.
Oh.
But, you know, this is the first kind of home to have electricity. It probably wasn't very, you know, reliable. So they more often use that. And these are very bright. They'd be very dim, the light bulbs they would have had at the time. They're still kind of refining the technology. In fact, I think there's 3 different light sockets you could get in some catalogs, that kind of thing.
The oil lamps would have been brighter than the...
Yeah, definitely. In fact, nowadays too, they're about as bright as these lights, I'm pretty sure. It's the glass and the wick that they have. It's pretty insane to see. But before I go, any other questions? Need to go to the person in charge of them. And so that is the governess. And so she was paid to literally do everything for the kids. Everything. Fixing clothes, putting them to bed, teaching them their lessons, anything they need. So she was roomed in here with the rest of the family. So it was a higher respected position in the house. Respect is kind of a strange way to put it. Servants weren't servants, they're more workers, they're paid more, essentially. So they needed a higher education. There's a lot more requirements to become a governess. But this is still a servant's room, so it's a little more lightly furnished than the other spaces, because like I said, they were paid a lot less than the lieutenant governor. But oftentimes the doors here would have been locked so that the kids only had one place to go, and that was to the governess. Otherwise, you know, they might go over to the parents' room, that kind of thing. And the etiquette was not to be seen, not to be heard. So these rooms over that we'll see here were set aside for the kids. Like the night nursery. For sleeping. The kids weren't allowed to do too much else in this room other than get ready for their day. And so all the clothing you see here is what kids were wearing back then. And it was all the same thing. They were unisex.
I think only she was there here, no?
Yep. Rita Mott is the niece of Henriette Forget, who was living here with Amédée. But that was back in 1898 when he first came into the building. Yeah, so that was a long time ago.
A very long time.
Yeah. But this would have been set aside for her.
Okay.
And no doubt, you know, these are some of the outfits children would have worn. So boys and girls wore the same thing up until about the age of 6, when boys would then start wearing pants. But other than that, the parents would often get confused, I imagine. But even babies too wore these long frocks, all white, that kind of thing. So as I often say, you save a fortune on clothes because you just move to the next kid. That kind of thing. But all of the stuff here is to help help children go to sleep. Next door is where the to be seen, not to be heard. If there were guests visiting, children spent their day in here. They weren't allowed to leave unless invited out. So this is where they have everything to do. They're schooling, they also played here, and they also ate here because they weren't welcome at the dinner table downstairs. So they tried to keep them as busy as possible. No doubt the governess had to work it out for her. But a lot of books, there's also all the toys around here too. But even the wallpaper, it had a practical purpose. They'd keep it black and white so that the kids could color on it, floor to ceiling. So, you know, it's their own space. There weren't guests that were really supposed to be in here, so they were allowed to do what they would. But then, you know, the governess would have them do more complex projects like the sampler here. As soon as you could hold a needle and thread, you'd be trying to make one of those. Or practicing your instruments. You'll see there's like an accordion in there, which I think is interesting for kids who are supposed to be quiet. It would have made a heck of a racket. But it wasn't until a little later on that those restrictions ended, and then kids are kind of welcome around the house. Sir Richard Lake, notably, right? But any other questions?
They do have pets also.
So that, I think it's not a photograph, but maybe a painting. I'm not 100% sure. But they did back then, like the monkey I talked about. It was Amédée Forger's pet. And then he also had a parrot as well, an African gray parrot named Coquette. And so they often had animals, dogs here as well. It's up to what, I mean, it's the Lieutenant Governor's house. Technically a private residence, so they're able to do what they wanted. That kind of thing. Any other questions?
How do you play this cards?
How do you
Play this card.
I actually don't know. I think it's actually more of a cue card thing to memorize the different through there.
Nope.
You're also free to continue looking around here if you want.
Perfect. Thank
Thank
you very
you
much.
so much.
Yeah, thanks for
Alright, please stay tuned and please do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and please do not skip all the advertisements. Thank you. Here is the visitor information. The address is 4607 Dudley Avenue, Regina, Saskatchewan, S4T1B7. The hours of operation during summer, Victoria Day to Labor Day, is from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Winter, closed on Mondays, open Tuesday to Sunday from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. With a phone number 306-787-5773. Admission is by donation. Historical Society events, Vintage and Collectibles Sale Weekend, held from April through December. The Government House Historical Society, or GHHS, hosts the sale during the Victorian Tea Weekends. Then we have the Victorian Tea Weekends, held once a month from April through November. These events take place in the beautiful Government House. Regina Symphony Orchestra Chamber Players, season finale performances, Canada Day celebration, hosted by the Lieutenant Governor on July 1st, 2024. Not who but what, historical interactive performance by acclaimed storyteller Vincent Murphy. Christmas holidays, Government House is closed on December 25th and 26th for staff holidays. The Government House stands as a place to commemorate history, reflect on the past, honor traditions, and promote healing. Its significance extends beyond architecture, serving as testament to the region's development and governance. If you're ever in Regina, consider visiting Government House to explore its rich heritage and experience its unique charm. The Government House Museum here in Regina is a place of historical significance and cultural heritage. This Government House Museum showcases the period under Lieutenant Governor Amédée Forget in the early 1900s. It has been designated as a National Historic Site of Canada due to its architectural and historical value. The visitors can explore the historical building and gain insights into the past, learning about the lifestyles and governance during the time of Lieutenant Governor Forget. The museum functions as a hospitality facility to government and non-profit organizations. The Government House provides educational experiences, engaging programs, and collaborative partnerships to deliver and promote the story of Government House. It houses a vibrant collection of over 10,000 articles, including objects original to the house from 1898 to 1910, period pieces, and replicas. Again, the museum offers guided tours at the top of every hour, and walk-ins are welcome. For groups of 10 or more, booking 24 hours in advance is encouraged. There are several indoor and outdoor tours available, allowing visitors to fully immerse themselves in the rich history of the place. The Government House Historical Society holds events such as the Vintage and Collectible Sale and the Victorian Tea Weekends, performances by the Regina Symphony Orchestra chamber players, and interactive performances by the storyteller Vincent Murphy as are also part of the museum's offering. The Government House is committed to providing accessible historic places and has programs dedicated to accessibility. For anyone interested in the history of Saskatchewan or those who enjoy exploring cultural heritage sites, the Government House Museum in Regina offers a unique and enriching experience. The Government House Museum in Regina offers a variety of exhibits and features for visitors to explore the following. The Queen Elizabeth II Art Gallery. This gallery provides opportunities for local and provincial artisans to prominently display their works. The exhibit space changes regularly, showcasing everything from quilting and photography to sculptures. Guided indoor tours. Visitors can learn about the history, heritage, and ecology of the Government House during guided indoor tours. Tours begin hourly at the top of each hour and during regular business hours. It is recommended to book a tour in advance if you have a specific time preference. This is the Conservatory. Once again, the Government House in Regina, Saskatchewan boasts several fascinating features including its conservatory. The Government House property encompasses 8.5 acres of meticulously maintained Edwardian gardens. Nestled within this lush green space is the charming conservatory. The visitors can step inside the conservatory to soak in the sunshine, surrounded by vibrant foliage and blooming flowers. Imagine strolling through this serene oasis where the air is filled with the sweet scent of blossoms and the gentle rustle of leaves. Historical significance. The Government House itself serves as the official office of the Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan. Originally constructed as a residence for the Lieutenant Governor of the Northwest Territories, it played a pivotal role during Regina's territorial headquarters era. When the province of Saskatchewan and Alberta were created out of the territories in 1905, Regina became the capital of Saskatchewan and Government House transitioned to its current role. Please stay tuned for more, and please do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you. The portrait of Queen Elizabeth II holds significant importance in Government House Regina for several reasons. Historical connection. The portrait symbolizes the historical connection between the monarchy and Canada, particularly Saskatchewan, which was once part of the Northwest Territories governed under the Crown. The portrait is a work of art by Canadian artist Phil Richards, created to commemorate the Queen's Diamond Jubilee. It represents a blend of cultural heritage and artistic expression. Displaying the portrait at Government House is a part of the celebrations for the Queen's Platinum Jubilee. It serves as a tribute to her 70-year reign and her relationship with the people of Saskatchewan. The portrait's presence at Government House provides an educational opportunity for visitors to learn about the Queen's role and significance in Canadian history. As Government House is the official residence of the Lieutenant Governor, the portrait plays as a role in official ceremonies and events, reinforcing the ceremonial ties to the Crown. The portrait is not just an artwork, it is a piece of living history that reflects the enduring relationship between Saskatchewan and the monarchy. It is a focal point for reflection on the past and present roles of the Crown in Canada. The Edwardian Gardens are a delightful oasis that blend historical charm with natural beauty. The Edwardian Gardens were meticulously designed to please the eye and delight the senses. As you stroll through the lush greenery, you'll encounter a series of outdoor rooms, each with its own unique perspective. The sweeping lawns follow the Edwardian garden design, creating a harmonious and tranquil atmosphere. Thank you so much, guys, to all my viewers and my subscribers. Thank you very much for watching.
Traditionally calls upon the leader of the party who commands a majority in the legislature to form a government and become premier. Constitutional monarchy works very well. We have a smooth transition to the new government coming in. The lieutenant governor promotes the legislature.
He doesn't need fires, he's got his colors noticed on it and on, turning heads to see the colors. It goes on and on. Stranger says he'll regret his armor. They don't get what it's like to be no one. We don't wanna be hiding. We don't wanna be fighting. We don't wanna be running from the sun. We don't wanna keep trying. We consider denying. We don't wanna be running from the sun of ebony publicity. She carries on and on. Small town words are filled with bias, and they'll go on and on. A stranger says, poor girl with that armor. They don't get that it's her choice to have a veiling golden gold. We don't wanna be hiding. We don't wanna be fighting. We don't wanna be running from the sun. We don't wanna keep trying.
Again, the Government House in Regina is a landmark of historical and architectural significance, serving as the official office of the Lieutenant Governor of Saskatchewan. It was constructed as a residence for the Lieutenant Governor of the Northwest Territories. Government House has been a central figure in Regina's history since its establishment.
Yes, we would.
The building showcases a modified Italianate architectural style, reflecting the grandeur of its time. It replaced the previous wooden structure and has undergone several additions and improvements over the years.
Armor.
All Although it was vacated in 1944, Government House returned to its original ceremonial use in 1984 and continues to serve as a venue for official events and reception. Government House is open to the public, offering daily tours where visitors can learn about its history and significance. The JEN Live Interpretive Center provides interactive virtual tours, allowing visitors to virtually walk through the center, watching videos and reading exhibits. Again, it is open daily from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. during the summer, including Victoria Day to Labor Day, and from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. in the winter, with admission by donation. For those interested in the cultural heritage and history of Saskatchewan, Government House Regina offers a unique and enriching experience that connects the past with the present. Once again, I would like to thank Lynn and Ray, our official videographer of today's vlog. Alright guys, please stay tuned and please do not forget to comment, like, and subscribe. Cheers!
Talking to each other, I know we feel the same about the situation, like we're stuck inside a game. Time to get out of this circle, yeah, we both carry a scar. Let's rewrite the part we're playing, time to cherish who we are. The only thing I ever wanted starts with us taking the chance, not like anything we've done before, yeah. Now it's time for something better, and time for us to follow our dreams. No, we can't stay no more. Come run away, don't be afraid, we'll be okay. And I know it's the right thing to do, let's break away. All colors will fade, let's go our own way. Now's the time to decide what to do, and I'll stand by you. Mixed emotions, the first step is always hard when you walk out of the doorway, but that's just the place to start. The only thing I ever wanted starts with us taking the chance, not like anything we've done before, yeah. Now it's time for something better, and time for us to follow our dreams. No, we can't stay no more. Come run away. About time we let things go. Is this our destiny? Just like it was meant to be, yeah. Come run away. Now's the time to decide what to do, and I'll stand by you.
now we're done. Thank you so much, guys. I will see you on my next video. Again, thank you so much for watching. Bye-bye.